Hello, my name is Xiaoyan. Welcome to How Can We Take on the Next Normal? This is a 7-part series brought to you by GIC, and it is specially designed to help anyone who wants to navigate their way forward into an uncertain and unknowable future. If you're looking for a set of solid principles that can help you clarify some thoughts and process some of the actions that you are considering, then I think this could be a useful series for you to follow. This is the 6th session of a 7-part series. In this session, we're going to unpack the 5th and final principle: prepare, don't predict. We are always going to try to predict the future. It is part of our human condition. It is humanity's way of coping with what is uncertain and what is unknown. And sometimes the more serious the stakes involved, the more some of us will actually seek out predictions to believe in. Why do we seek out predictions for such serious matters rather than put in some hard work and actually prepare for the future? Well, the first reason is predictions are a form of self-comfort and self-protection. The more we feel threatened by this lack of knowledge, the more we want to act like we know something. And predictions give us that little safety net of, I know something that you don't. The second is that predictions give us a feeling of control over our fate. So the more uncontrollable and unpredictable a situation, the more you may want to just have something, anything, even if it's a shred of nonsense. We just want to hold on to it. But why is it really unhelpful for us to lean on predictions rather than preparations for such serious matters? Well, the first is we tend to very unconsciously cherry pick the results that we want to see. All of us tend to suffer from a bit of confirmation bias. And what that means is we only see what we expect to see, we only see what we want to see. And when we are presented information that is contrary to our previous beliefs, or it is uncomfortable to our previous beliefs, we will deflect, we will deny, we will resist. We may even just totally block it out of our view. But the second reason for why this is really unhelpful to lean on predictions is we put ourselves at risk of being manipulated and cheated by people who want to tell us these comforting and easy things. We start to gravitate towards anyone who tells us the things we want to hear about the future. So what does preparing and not predicting for this unpredictable future look like then? The very first thing you want to do is to have a map of guiding principles. So the future in general is just too uncertain for a precise forecast. And when we listen into experts or when we are seeking knowledge out there, we shouldn't be looking for certainty. What we should be looking for is clarity. With all of these bits and pieces of knowledge, can we get clearer and clearer about what's going on? And knowledge is not sufficient. What you need are guiding principles or heuristics. And we talked about this in our introduction video. Guiding principles are like a roadmap. They are a great way to give you a better sense of direction, and they give you some clarity about what is the road ahead in a complex and unpredictable situation. So principles like roadmaps are there to give you a decent enough grasp of the road ahead so that you know how to move. It doesn't tell you everything specific about what's ahead, but it's general and useful enough to keep you moving forward. And that's what we need to do when it comes to dealing with uncertain, unknowable future. You have to keep moving. You can't stay stuck forever. Now, the second thing that you can do to prepare for the future is to get clearer about the different probable scenarios that lie ahead of you. Scenario planning can sound difficult and complex, but really it is about taking a scan of current reality, projecting some forecasts, and exploring what are some influential internal and external factors that could produce potential futures. And there are many templates available online that can help you unpack that. You don't have to be an expert to begin to plan for different scenarios. There isn't actually a standardized way for doing scenario planning. So here are some pretty popular templates that people use, and you can pick whichever one works for you. So this is one. This is another scenario planning template, which is a bit more flow-based. And here's another scenario planning template, which works really well for those of you who branch out your thoughts. So any one of these could work for you. You can pause the video and just take a look at it. So the third way that you can prepare for the future is to also get clearer about what cycles lie ahead for your market. No matter what market you are involved in, there are always certain cyclical phases. There is a certain level of predictability about the way markets move. There will be a rise, a peak, a dip, and then a bottom out. And when one cycle is finished, the next one begins. Of course, what is unpredictable is when and why and how come. For example, if you are in the marketing or selling of products, you may have heard of the product life cycle, where there is an introduction phase, where a product is released into the market, marketing and promotion are very high, consumers are sensing their response to the product, there's a heavy spending period on the side of the organization and no guarantee that sales will make up for it. Costs are really high, typically no competition or very little, and the goal here is to build demand, get it to consumers, and hope to cash in on what you hope is growing popularity. And then there's a growth phase where the product concept has been proven, it's getting more popular, sales are increasing, many more people are becoming aware of a product, and a product in the growth stage will begin to be tweaked so that functions are improved, features are improved. And as the market expands, more competition often drives prices down to make products competitive. Sales are still growing and generating revenue. Sales are still growing and generating value. This leads into the third phase, which is maturity, where sales start to slow or even stop. And it signals to you that the market is getting largely saturated. Prices begin falling because of competition or lower demand. And companies will start to innovate in order to reach different market segments who are in the introduction or growth phase. Less successful competitors or people who don't recognize that this is the maturity phase, they start to be pushed out of the competition. And the last phase is decline, where sales drop pretty dramatically or significantly. Consumer behavior changes, there's less demand for this product, a company's product starts to lose more and more market share, competition tends to cause sales to deteriorate, and marketing in the decline stage is often very minimal or targeted at already loyal, die-hard customers, and prices will be reduced. Eventually, this product will be retired out of the market unless it is able to redesign itself. How does knowing the cycle that we're in help us? So I want you to imagine that this is 1999, and the question you're asking yourself is, should I get into the bubble tea business? To better prepare yourself, you might take a look at the market and you would see like, okay, bubble tea has been around for a good 7 years since 1992. It looks like things are on an incline, is the introduction to growth phase. And you might start your own company. And in 1999, there was a bubble tea business called Eat Your Cup that was founded. 2001, peak popularity of bubble tea was reached, and you could tell because by 2002, there were 5,000 bubble tea shops in Singapore. There was such a surplus of bubble tea retailers that even hawker centers, random people were just selling bubble tea. Even shoe shops were selling bubble tea. And that is a sign of the times that we are reaching peak growth to maturity, and you better get out or level out a little bit because things may dive very soon. At this point, Eat Your Cup has 51 stores in 2001. And very quickly in 2003, the bubble tea industry went into decline, sharp decline. Bubble tea shops were forced to close, and there was intense competition, price wars, one-for-one offers, lucky draws, and that's when you know it is on a decline. The industry starts to fade out and only a few survivors are left. And Eat Your Cup, knowing that this is where it is, it starts to scale down from 51 stores to 15 stores. When you recognize you are in an industry that's on a decline, that's when you need to strategize about whether you want to ride a next wave or whether there is even a next wave. In 2007 to 2009, Taiwanese brands like Koi and Gongcha were introduced into the market. And you saw that same healthy growth start to happen. Business was peaking, and even like local homegrown bubble tea brands were starting to benefit from it. And these new trends had more of a lasting effect. There was a lot more innovation going on. So it wasn't just bubble tea anymore. It was jellies and puddings and even brown rice. All sorts of things were being put into drinks. So the category expanded into casual drinks. So knowing what phase you are in allows you to expand or contract and make suitable decisions based on the reality of the market. So all of us can benefit from being curious about what cycle am I sitting in and what do I need to do to better prepare myself for what predictably could happen. The bubble tea story is also useful in telling us that you need to be in this to create long-term value and not to catch a short-term fad. Short-term fads don't last. Hard work and funds can get easily wiped out if we don't get curious enough to see what surprising cycle my market or my product is sitting in. The fourth way you can prepare for the future is to also get clearer about what long-term global trends are happening and will definitely affect you, and that all of us need to better prepare for. There are many institutions out there who put out reports predicting future trends so that people can better prepare for it. We can all prepare for the future by helping the world solve its many present and future issues, such as preparing for more future pandemics, or looking into education and gender and inequality issues, or looking at the issue of sustainability, health and well-being, food issues, land issues, water issues, sustainable cities, the digital revolution, and the digital issues. When we look at all of these issues, we can see them as a lot of pain and trouble for the world. But I'm going to invite you to also see that there is opportunity for more of us to be part of the solution. And this is all high value work that someone will be willing to pay a high price. And this work needs to be done. Where there is pain, there is opportunity to be part of the solution. The last thing that you can do to prepare for the future is to just practice being very curious about what is your relationship with change. This model presents one way of looking at our relationship with change. Some of us are innovators, the very first to adopt an innovation. Some of us are early adopters who are the second fastest to adapt to change and to adopt whatever innovations are out there. Some of us are part of the early majority who are a bit slower in the adoption process. And then some of us are part of the late majority who only adopt innovation and adapt to change after the average member in society. And some of us are laggards who are usually the last to adopt an innovation and the very last to adapt to change. You can pause the video here just to read through these words and figure out which one most resembles you. And as you take a look at that, ask yourself, which one am I? Which one can I be? And given all of that, so who do I want to work for? If you're part of the early majority, you could work for an early adopter, for example. Or if you're an early adopter, you want to be more and more familiar with what are the innovators up to. You may also look at this model and use it to figure out who do you need to hire. If you want to start a research and development arm, you might need to staff it with innovators and early adopters and early majority. Not everybody is an innovator, early adopter, or early majority, and they don't have to be. Remember that there are some significant barriers of financial capital, social capital, and emotional capital that cause people to be where they are. There is always going to be a bit of a chasm or a gap between the people who just want things to change and they want the newest things, and the people who just want things to more or less stay the same and they would rather have solutions which are complete, well-tested, and just convenient. And there's no right or wrong here. It's just different relationships of change. What we can do, though, to better prepare for the future is to take a look at the people who are on the left and on the right of us and see how can I relate better to them. For example, if I'm part of the early majority, I may want to keep talking to more early adopters and learn from their opinion leadership so that I can learn from them what are some new ideas or changes that they see, especially in the innovators that they are engaging with. I can also look to my right and engage the late majority in conversations and get a sense of what is their resistance towards change, what are some problems that they see that I don't see, and also have them to consider what are some really interesting ideas that are worth adopting. So this is your list of 5 simple ways to prepare and not predict for this really, really unpredictable future. This also concludes our exploration of these 5 broad principles that any of us can use as a roadmap to move us forward through a very uncertain and unknowable future. Thank you for learning with me today. This was the 6th session of a 7-part series brought to you by GIC. If you found this session useful, then please watch the rest of the series and also forward it to someone who might find it useful too. Wherever you want to go into the future, I hope you don't go at it alone. Walk with someone who wants to learn together with you and is fully supportive of you. I will see you for the next session. Let's keep learning together.